Welcome to It Can Get Better Than This. I'm Heather Hodge.
And I'm Dr. Cindy Byler. And today we're going to talk about boundaries.
Boundaries.
So, this is one of my favorite topics, especially working with in counseling or with people in their relationships, because it is vitally important to have healthy relationships. So, boundaries are really very simple to explain, but much more difficult to implement.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, in a lot of drawings that you'll see of boundaries, you'll see a circle with me in it. And those are the things that this is the boundary is where I stop and other people start.
Yeah. Cloud and Townsend used the analogy of a house with a fence. Anything behind the fence or within the fence is your responsibility, and anything outside of the fence is their responsibility, the other
Right.
person's responsibility.
Right. That's a good analogy. It helps to have word pictures so that you can see it in your head too.
Mhm.
So, what are the things that I am in control of and responsible for?
So, what does that entail boundary wise? Like, what are we responsible for?
So, you're responsible for your own emotions, your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own attitude, and your own actions or behavior.
Okay.
So, one of the things that comes up is like someone says something to hurt your feelings, and it's been said that, how does that go? That,
It's like I'm not responsible. Oh, I've heard that before. Well, I'm not responsible for how I made you feel. You're responsible for how it made you feel. But they're the one that says the hurtful thing.
right.
So
And
how does that work?
I think it's a two-way street.
Okay.
I think that we have to be sensitive to what is going to hurt somebody else's feelings. Also, some people use that in a relationship to gaslight or to gain power and control because they are aware of what buttons to push in order to make that person feel hurt or upset or angry and like knock them off their guard. Um, but I think it's important that we are aware of things that would hurt other people. But it's also on ourselves, on us to know what our buttons are.
Okay.
Um, so it really helps to know your buttons and triggers, and that's a whole different episode. But when you know what they are, you can start learning to disarm them so that or deactivate them would be a better word, so that when someone says something like that, you've already got your defense up, or it's just out the window and it's not even a button anymore. There's been several things like that in my own personal life where, oh, that's a button. And that really gets me. Like, you're acting just like your mother would have been one of those.
Ooh.
Yeah, don't say that to me back then. But as I worked to disarm that button and I found the good things about my mother and also that I am not acting like her in the ways that I was being accused of, but I was actually putting down boundaries and putting my limits down on what I could do and not do, then uh, that can be said to me. And it's like, I think you're wrong. And it didn't hurt my feelings. It does make me back away from the relationship a little bit,
Yeah.
but that's also a boundary. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
So on the other side, what am I not in control of or responsible for? So I'm not in control of other people's emotions or their feelings. I'm not in control of other people's thoughts or their attitudes. I'm not in control of their actions or behaviors. And really important to listen to is I am not in control of other people's relationships.
Yeah, as someone with high levels of anxiety, that's something that I tell myself all the time is um I can't control how people think, feel, or see me. Um, if they want to talk about me behind my back, it's none of my business, kind of thing.
Right.
That's a hard boundary that I've had to hang on to. Um, it's understandable when they get mad, but if they're going to blow up, that's their choice to blow up.
Right.
I'm going to choose to not put that on my plate. I can take responsibility for what wrong I've done, but if they're going to blow it out of proportion, I'm backing up.
Yes.
That's not my responsibility to fix either.
Right. Right. I think that the only thing we can do is be the best selves that we can be and keep working and growing. And I think that's part of boundaries is having good boundaries is growing and learning about ourselves, changing, but letting other people react to us the way that they're going to react. Not
Mhm.
everybody's going to like us all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I know that's hard to believe,
No
but
matter how darn likable you are.
that's right. Even if you're practically perfect in every way. So there's different kinds of boundaries as well to think about. So there's emotional boundaries where how much, how invested am I in different relationships in my life? Um, there's also, and also like, how much can I invest into someone, especially if they remind me of somebody or they act a certain way. So that's emotional boundaries.
Okay. We think through an example for that.
Um, I have a friend. This is just an example. This isn't real life,
Oh.
but we've all had that friend. I have a friend that has emotional issues a lot.
It's me.
It's not you. And when I was young and younger, I'm still young. When I was younger and had 4 little kids, there was times when I could talk to her and let her just process, vent, whatever, not always solve them because I can't solve everything. I had to sometimes say, okay, right now I'm dealing with this issue with one of my kids or all 4 of them at the same time, or we're eating dinner together. I'm not going to be able to deal with her issues right now. I'm going to have to wait till later when I can actually focus on her and my emotional energy is not the strain with 4 kids.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Kinda-
Sometimes you just have to put limits around what you can do when and how much you can give,
Yeah.
even if it's not enough for that other person, which it wasn't enough.
Right. Right. And if you find yourself on the other, because I've been the friend to other people before where I've unloaded emotionally and they did not need that at the moment.
Right.
But I found that if you are constantly finding yourself in that place of being that friend, there's more going on that needs to be fixed than whatever the issue is right then and there.
Right. And then it's time
It's
to
time to
talk to
get some
somebody.
help.
Yes. Get some help. So there's also physical boundaries. How much do I want to be touched? And when you have a baby, like you do right now, that's not always a boundary you can set. But even as your kids get older, you can set boundaries about, okay, mommy loves to hold you, but right now mommy needs a little bit of space. I need a little bit of a bubble. Also, other people touching you
Oh my
where,
gosh. Yeah. Being pregnant and people just touching you out of nowhere.
oh my gosh, yes. Oh, the baby, and they're touching your stomach. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a,
Don't do that.
right.
Don't do that.
Just don't. So there's physical boundaries. There's also what I call life boundaries. Like, what times a day are you available? After 9 o'clock and sometimes 7 o'clock, except for my children, I'm done. And definitely not before 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to talk to people before 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. Appointments and stuff too. I try to keep them within a reasonable amount of time.
Yes. Yes. You get 1 hour and then I have to get up and leave and walk out of the room.
Yep. And it doesn't matter where I'm going. I'm not telling you.
Right.
Just don't follow me.
Right. Also, like, how often am I available? Sometimes people think that because a wife is a stay-at-home wife, that she's available for whatever people think she needs to volunteer for or help with.
Yeah,
But
that's ridiculous.
yeah, that's her life, her boundaries, and that's a life boundary that that person needs to set.
And it's none of their business.
Right.
You know, if you choose to spend I mean, whoever is at home or on the weekend or whatever, it doesn't matter what you choose to do with that time. It's still your time at the end of the day. You don't owe
Right.
the explanation. Same with family that pushes to babysit or to get their children babysat.
Right.
Well, you're not doing anything. That's none of their business.
Right. Sometimes I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Right.
The recovery time is essential anyway to function throughout life.
Yes. So one example of a life boundary is also if you're an adult and you're working full time and you're going back to school, or even if you're not working full time and you're going back to school, sometimes, or you have children, and you start having children, there's things that you've volunteered for that you can no longer volunteer for because your life is changing and you need to be able to set priorities differently than you did before. It needs to be okay to step back a little bit and say, I used to do this, but I can't anymore.
Yeah.
So, also, demands from your family that aren't survival is a good life boundary. Um, Sharing household chores and everybody being on the same team. I used to say, we all live here, we all work here. So it's our house together. So we all need to play a part in making sure that our house looks the way that it should look.
Yeah. Even if you have one spouse staying at home, or if you're in like a roommate situation, everybody lives there. Everybody can help.
Yes. Right.
Now, if there's like a different division of labor, okay. Um, if it's one of those like we can't do as much till the weekend because they're exhausting coming from home from work or something, that's between them too.
Right.
But
It's the thing is being on the same team,
yeah.
sharing the mental load.
Oh, the mental load's big.
Right. And usually that is unfortunately on one spouse or the other. Most often the wife, but there are some households where it's on the husband.
Mm-hmm.
And the mental load is something that needs to be shared so that you're a team working together.
Yeah.
And there's different ways to share the mental load. But one way is to start sitting down with your spouse and talking about, okay, I'm carrying the mental load and we need to work on this mental load together and start learning to share it, and also for them to start learning to share it with you.
It helps to have like a shared calendar. That's been a big thing for me. If it's not on the calendar, it's not happening.
Right.
Um, if you didn't see it on the calendar, like I update it constantly, and that's one of those things where if we didn't see it, but it was on there, it's on us. It's
Right.
not my responsibility or my husband's responsibility to be the reminder, the alarm clock, and remind that person 4, 5, 6 times a week to go do
Yes.
this. It's
Right.
on the calendar for a reason so that I can take it out of the mental load.
Right. Right. That's true.
It even has like, this is how long it'll take for you to get here.
Oh, wow. That's a nice calendar.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, yeah. A lot of them have that now, though.
Oh, that's
You
cool.
can put like the location in of wherever you have to
Oh,
be.
okay. That makes sense.
So it'll tell you you
Mine-
need to leave in 30 minutes.
Mine constantly tells me how close it is to our favorite Mexican restaurant here.
Yep.
when I start my car and my phone goes on, it's like, it'll take 11 minutes to get to Rodeo.
Yep. Shout out to Rodeo.
So often we think that in our relationships that if I do this, then they will do this.
Mm-hmm.
So we behave a certain way thinking that they will respond in the way that I expect and that I want them to. But that doesn't work all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So this boundaries take, and having a good team takes really clear and constant communication. And that can be difficult for many people because it feels like confrontation. But that's one of the things we're going to work on in these episodes is clearer communication with your loved ones, whether it's your spouse or your children or your parents, colleagues, your friends. It's really important to have really clear communication about your expectations and not just expecting that, well, if I act this way, they know then that I'm expecting them to respond in this way. So like if I cook, I'm expecting that you're going to just know that you're supposed to clean up.
Right.
But that's not always in that other person's mind, and there needs to be some clear communication between the two of you so that you're not disappointed with the expectations that aren't met.
Yeah. I think that needs to be, I don't know. What would you think? I don't necessarily think that needs to be situational. I think that needs to be sitting down and saying, I'm seeing all this stuff. I'm not making, like, I get making kids a list.
Right.
Like, kids
Teaching
need a
them,
list
right.
at this point. But when you're living with another adult and one of you sees the trash isn't taken out, the dishes aren't done, the floors are disgusting, the other one is perfectly content to live like that and ignore it. How, like, I don't think it should be a situational, don't you see that? Go pick it up. Or there are a lot of articles and magazines will be like, well, why don't you make this person a list? Like, that's your job.
And that's still one person carrying the mental load.
Right. I think it needs, how do you
Well,
get
that
out
needs-
of make a list?
That needs to be a conversation, and a conversation about the two of you sitting down and making a list together and talking about those things like the trash is obviously full and overflowing. Does it have to be that I am your mother or I'm your father and telling you to take it out? I'd like to be your husband or your wife.
Yeah.
And saying it as
Or your
kindly,
roommate.
or your roommate, right? And you want to say it as kindly as possible, without like tearing them up, because that raises other people's defenses up. And you don't want that, because then they don't hear you and you can't get to a solution. But getting it, manage your anger and having a conversation about like, I don't want to be the only one carrying the mental load, and I don't want to have to tell you like there's dishes in the sink. Can you just do them? Like I'm doing them. Do I have to tell you to do them?
Right.
Uh,
Right.
There's a lot of things that communication, having good conversations, good healthy conversation helps. So there's a lot of people that are afraid of conflict. Most people do not enjoy conflict and or confrontation. So you have to set boundaries, and that's difficult to do that. But one way to look at it that I've helped a lot of my clients when they are afraid of having a conversation with somebody is to remember that it's not just that you're growing and that you're setting boundaries, but you're giving that other person the opportunity to grow as well.
Right.
It's
Right.
their decision whether they're going to take that opportunity. But if you can be kind and you can be clear about expectations and what you need to have different for the better of both of you, then a lot of times people step up to the plate, but they need the chance, the opportunity to be told, hey, this is not going well. This is not healthy for us. And it gives them a chance to grow and change as well.
Yeah. Relationships can't grow past a surface level without some level of conflict. And that
Right,
doesn't mean without fighting. It means without having things to work through to make the relationship
right,
stronger.
right. Because you have, in a marriage or even a roommate situation, you have two people coming from totally different backgrounds, many times different cultures in the way that they grew up, and a different way of doing things. In some households, like the mom was the one that did everything, so that was just expected by that person, whether it is the husband or wife.
Right.
If they act in that role or they expect the wife to be in that role, and the other one comes where the both parents work together, so they're expecting something different. So it takes a lot of communication in a marriage and in close relationships or even roommate situations to understand where what role everybody's playing and how things are carried out.
Yeah. That's another, well, that works beyond the mental load, but with other boundaries when you're living with somebody as well. Things like physical space or,
Mm-hmm.
um, like I don't like being touched when I'm washing dishes. This is a common thing. And, um, like for, for my husband to come up behind me and hug me when I'm washing dishes, it drives me crazy.
Right.
And it took a lot of like I don't know how to explain to you that it makes me want to like stab you, but please don't touch me when
Right.
I'm washing dishes. Don't come up behind me. That scares
I
me.
might have a sharp knife that I know how to use.
But um
Yeah.
it hurt his feelings a little bit when I told him that the first several times.
Right.
And I was finally like I feel physically restricted when I'm trying to do something I don't want to do. I hate doing dishes.
Right. Just let me get it
And
done.
now you're making it even harder for me. And now we have an almost 1 year old who likes to crawl on top of me.
Always.
I'm her jungle gym.
Yes. Yes.
And I can't. I'm like, this is my moment of peace that nobody's touching me.
Yes. And that's something that a lot of moms have with little kids is that they're touched out and the husband does not understand, but they're being
Right.
touched out constantly. That can be very challenging when they're little.
Yeah. I think it's important to be on the same page of like, this is the time or like a situation where I don't mind being touched.
Yes.
And this is a situation where I really, really, really don't
Right.
want to be touched. Leave me
Right.
alone.
Right. Right. Another thing for people that struggle with conflict and um, confrontation is to write the bottom line down so
Yeah.
that you know exactly what you need or what you're asking for, so that even if the conversation spins, and it often does, especially between spouses, um, if the conversation spins into excuses or other things, because sometimes when you're talking to somebody about something that you need them to do differently, they come back with, well, you do all this wrong. So it really helps to have a bottom line so you can come back to that and remember, oh, yeah, okay, this is what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, it helps when you measure each sentence that they're giving you
Yes,
to your bottom line and say, this
right,
has nothing to do with I'm telling you.
right,
Back to this. Okay, we can take care of that. Back to this. This is my bottom line.
right, right. And keep it simple. Long explanations can tune people out, especially in this day and age where we have so much of our attention spans are shorter because of how our fast the TV and movies
Our
go.
technology is, yeah.
Yes, our technology is these days. So keep it so that you don't have a long explanation. Keep it simple so that they can understand you fully and have the chance to ask questions. And don't attack. A lot of times people are blind to what they're not doing. That's not helping. And so keep it so that you're kind and you keep your respect for that person when you're talking to them, even if you're really angry.
Yeah, and that anger is valid. When you have people that are
Yes.
not respecting you, it is valid to be angry, and it's very valid to have a lot of words. But there's a difference between healing those feelings and getting the solution to the problem. You need both,
Right. Right.
but
Well, sometimes you need somebody to talk to
yeah,
before you go talk to that person. So
someone whose best interest is for the couple or for the two people that the conflict is involving.
right.
That's
Right.
like, well, I still want you guys to be friends at the end of the day, or I want both of you to be happy, or I don't care. I've seen how much of a toll this is taking on you. We've got to get you better, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And saying it hurts my feelings when you don't do this, but when you talk on and on and on about it, it won't help you get to the solution you need necessarily.
Right. You said something yesterday.
Oh yeah,
Do
what
you
was
remember
that?
what it was?
No, did we
That
write
you
it down?
want? Yeah. Oh,
Oh
yes, I
gosh.
did. The person that's in your corner that you're venting to and you're trying to work it out, process before you go and talk to the
Oh
person.
yeah,
Do
I
you remember?
remember.
Okay.
You want a problem solver, not a tea party guest, right? Is that
Right.
what it was?
Yes.
You need tea party guests. That's like tea parties are fun. But when you're in the throes of it and you really want your situation to get better, the person that you're talking to needs to be someone who can help you get to the other side of better, not just a tea party guest.
Right.
I have been both for many years.
And you can be good
I
at both.
intend on being both for many more years.
And then it's a matter of knowing who you need to be in that moment for the person.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to communicate that. Okay, I need to problem solve this. I don't need to commiserate. I need some help, like talking through this and getting down to my bottom line and keeping
Right.
it simple.
Right. Like which one, and saying, okay, sometimes you have to hold the boundary of you don't like this person, don't tell them this. That'll just hurt their feelings. But saying, this person really doesn't need me to make the problem bigger in their head or make it worse or amp them up. They really need me to listen and say, I'm so sorry you're going through this. What can I do to help?
Right.
Or what are you thinking about doing from here?
Right. Yeah.
And then have a tea party later.
That's right. Afterwards. So I have my boundaries all set up and someone has crossed my boundary. What do I do?
First of all, you tell them, back up. No.
Back up, buddy. Well, first thing is that oftentimes it is better not to pick up the consequence.
Yes.
Sometimes natural consequences teach that, okay, I set my boundary and I'm not going back on my boundary. So this is not done or this is hanging in the air. You can't, don't pick up if you pick up the consequences, then you're saying, I didn't really mean it.
Yeah. That's a common thing when you have like a parent that like when you're an adult child and you have a parent that is crossing a line, like maybe they're not doing what you want them to do or don't want them to do with your kids when they're
Right.
watching them. And you're like, "Oh, well, I won't say, I'll let him babysit next week. It's fine. Maybe he'll stop or maybe she'll stop." No, it's
We just gave them a little bit of sugar.
yeah. Yeah, or food dye or something, or whatever
Right.
you're trying to keep them away from, or I couldn't handle the screaming and the fighting and everything, so we gave them screen time, even though you said they were grounded or something
Right.
like that. You
Right.
know, it's you have to you can't go, oh, but it's my mom, or oh, it's my dad. I gotta give them a
Mhm.
little grace. The grace doesn't really work there. You can't let them not experience the consequence, a
Right.
natural
Right.
consequence.
And that doesn't mean you withdraw your kids from them,
No,
but maybe the next time I can't let you watch them because they're grounded from screen time and you didn't honor that.
right. If you're not on my team, I then you're not on the lineup.
Right. Right. You have to stay consistent with your boundaries. Otherwise, they're not going to be respected and honored.
Yeah, even
So
if it's hard.
even if it's hard, and many times it is hard, um, and it helps to stick to the bottom line that we talked about earlier, so that you can measure what they're saying and doing against the bottom line. So the bottom line is that measuring stick to come back to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. So, like in a work environment, how would you do that?
In a work environment, okay, that can be difficult because you don't want to lose your job. But you have a coworker that is consistently procrastinating and not doing things until the very last minute, and then they're in a panic and a rush, but you have your own things to do and you've already set the boundary of I can help you if my job is done,
Right.
but I can't help you if my job is not done because I'm not going to get in trouble because you procrastinated.
Or if work outside of the 9 to 5 time frame is not in your job description, and the boss keeps
Right.
giving you something at 4 o'clock, 4:30 to hurry up and get done before you leave, and you wind up having to stay till 6 or 7.
Yes, that needs to be a boundary too.
I'm like, no, I'm not staying.
Right. I can't stay. I have children at home
Or just, I'm not.
right. Yeah.
You
I'm
don't
paid
owe your
until
boss an
5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So also having boundaries will help you to walk away from arguments. So one of the boundaries that I set in my life is I will have any conversation with anybody, but I'm not going to be yelled and screamed at. And so that caused me to at times have to, and still sometimes, to walk away from an argument. And when, by just saying simply, I want to talk about this, but I want to talk about this in a way that we respect and love each other and not this way. So when you can calm down and you can talk to me in a better tone, then I am very ready to come back to the conversations. But I will
Yeah.
not have a conversation in this manner anymore.
And to keep that simple, it's like, I told you I'm not going to be yelled at.
Yes.
You yelled at me, I'm walking away.
Yes.
And even if you have to keep saying that, nope, you yelled at me, I'm done, I'm walking
Yes.
away.
And that will definitely take consistency until the person realizes, oh, they've changed, and many times they will meet that change and start working with them themselves not to do what they're doing.
Yeah. And it'll take more than one fight, more than one instance for those
Yes.
boundaries.
Yes. Consistency is key.
They do get it after a while.
After a while, they do get it. And if they don't, then that's when you have to evaluate, is this a toxic relationship for me?
Right.
You've got to remember why you set those boundaries. You're setting boundaries because you want to be a healthier version of yourself, especially for the other people in your life that count on you the most, like your children, your grandchildren, your spouse, your dog,
Your dog.
Finners. So it's back to the bottom line of your why. Like, why am I setting these boundaries in the first place? It's so that I can have healthier relationships and I can be healthier myself. So if you have healthy friends, if you have good friends, and they might not always be as healthy as they need to be either, but if they respect your boundaries, then you know you have a good friend.
Yeah.
If you have a person in your life that is a friend, a parent, whatever, is constantly disrespecting the boundaries that you set, then you need to trust that you know what's best for yourself and your family, and not what they're telling you is best or communicating to you in other ways that is best for you and your family. You have to stick with your boundaries. And it's very difficult sometimes to withdraw some from friendships or from relationships that are unhealthy or toxic that you've had for a long time, that are feeding you in other ways but are not good for you overall or for your family overall. But you need to trust that you're doing this for your own health and your own benefit, which is very, very important.
Yeah. And it's not easy to do, especially if you're like me, a little inconsistent, or um if something doesn't take immediately, I don't really want to do it anymore. But I will say that with boundaries and limited experience of having to set boundaries, um it's been worth the investment in in myself and in my family to have really pushed to establish those boundaries and to trust that I knew what was best for me.
Yeah. It brings more peace into your life.
Yes, and that piece is unmatched.
Yes.
To know that
Yes.
they can't get you. I know it feels very like attacking when those boundaries are crossed, but they can't do anything to you.
Right.
You know, it's you're safe, you're more protected, and you have a safe haven. Like I don't let this go past anywhere, so I'm home. I'm good.
Right. So most of us struggle with boundaries. And so this is going to be a consistent topic within our podcast, along with the last episode of Stretchy
Oh
Brain.
yeah, stretchy brain.
Because a lot of our issues come from a lack of boundaries, and many of us know it. We don't always know to what level of dysfunction we might be working in, because many people have lived with it so long they don't realize, oh wow, that was really unhealthy in the way that I had that relationship. But you need to know that your feelings are valid and that they matter,
Yes.
and that you need to trust yourself, that you know what's, like I just said, it's what you know what's best for yourself, and you know what's best for your family. And that's going to grow and change as you grow and change, and as your family grows through the seasons of life and changes. But it's okay to use the word no.
Yes.
It's okay to say no to things. No is a complete sentence.
Yeah, that's what the I guess I gotta say Mary Kate, Ashley, and Elizabeth Olsen's dad said was no is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
That's resonated with me for a long time.
Yeah.
It's not no, I have to fill in the blank. It's just no.
No, I can't
No.
do that. Right. And that's it's a struggle to prioritize ourselves.
Yeah, it's really hard to remember that we're worth it.
Yes.
Worth it in terms of you start thinking like, well, I'm not it's worth the other people are worth more than I am. It's not that the low self-worth. It's other people are more worth it than I am. I'm willing to put myself on the line, but your worth has to come first in that sense.
Yes. And one way to think about it is, you're in an airplane, and before you take off, they're showing you where the oxygen mask is going to come down, and they tell you, put your oxygen mask on yourself first before you help anybody else with it.
Even kids, yeah.
Even kids. Because if you don't have the oxygen mask on yourself, you're not going to survive enough to help anybody.
Right.
So we have to think about that in terms of our own healthy self-care as well. And many in different seasons of life, that is easier to do. When you have an infant, a newborn or an infant, a toddler, it is much harder to have good self-care. But as that child grows, it does get easier.
Yeah.
But boundaries are not always easy to implement, nor are they comfortable to implement. But they do feed healthy relationships and care to your family and friends,
Yes.
both in setting those boundaries and also in having your family in a boundary, so that people can only get so far into what they cannot do with your family.
Right.
So boundaries are not a short-term solution. They need to be looked at as a long-term worthwhile investment into yourself and into your relationships. So if you'd like to delve deeper into this topic, we recommend the Boundaries series books again, and we will continue to do that throughout these podcasts. There are books by John Townsend and Henry Cloud, and there's a whole series of them. Boundaries with children, boundaries with teenagers.
Boundaries in marriage. There's all kinds of them.
Yes. I recommend to start with the original Boundaries book first.
It's red and white.
It's beautiful, and it will really help you. I have seen this book and these concepts change people's lives.
I think I could be wrong on this, but if you are an audiobook listener like I am, they come with PDF files too
Oh,
of
excellent.
like diagrams and different things, different little
Oh,
infographic
excellent.
things.
Oh, that'd be great.
They really are great, very life changing, very helpful as well.
So in the meantime, take care of yourself and we'll see you next week.